Hello there, students at Steger 6th Grade Center. Even though we are no longer alive, we insist on your full attention. We must talk to you about something serious. It's about the Webster Groves Acceptable Use Policy, or AUP.
All Webster Groves District students and employees must have an acceptable use policy on file. Your deadline is coming up soon. If you do not have a policy on file, you will no longer be able to use the computers for school.
And not using the computers would be a bad thing. Did you know that you would have to use only books for learning? It would be a travesty. A disaster. A terrible thing.
Let's not scare them, Mr. President. Students, all of you had an acceptable use policy in your registration paperwork. Miss Olson, please hold up this most important piece of paper. The Webster Groves Acceptable Use Policy is not the same as the United States Constitution or the Emancipation Proclamation, but it is quite important nonetheless.
Without this piece of paper, you cannot use a computer after September 30th of this year. If you do not have this piece of paper on file, you must turn it in right away. Maybe you moved here late in the year. Maybe you lost it. Maybe you never received it in the mail. Whatever the reason, there are no more excuses. You need to get a new one and have your parents fill it out immediately. Did you hear me? I said immediately.
Now we must tell you why this acceptable use policy, or AUP, is so important. An acceptable use policy is a contract. It's something that school districts, organizations, businesses, governments and other groups require their computer users to sign. It says that they promise to remember a few important things when they use the computers inside the buildings. All Webster District employees, including nurses, office workers, custodians, teachers and principals, must sign the acceptable use policy.
Likewise, all Webster School District students must have an acceptable use policy on file. When you were just a little boy or girl, such as an itty-bitty first grade student or a teeny-weeny fourth grade student, you had to have an acceptable use policy paper on file. But because you were so small, your parent or guardian signed it for you. Now that you are much older, you can do it yourself.
Now that you are a 6th grader, you are practically an adult.
Let's not overdo it, George. Now that these students are in 6th grade, the Webster Groves School District wants them to be responsible for their own signatures.
Yes, that's correct. You 6th grade students are responsible for signing the paper and for understanding what you are signing.
Even though your parent or guardian may have signed your acceptable use policy on your behalf, which means they may have signed it for you, it no longer stands on its own. Now that you are a big, bad 6th grader, you must understand what it is your parents have signed.
Why, yes, Abraham. That's correct. The students in this room, who are sitting before us today, must take responsibility for their own technology use.
What exactly is technology again? I feel as though I have been asleep for a long time.
No, Abraham. We have both been deceased for a long time. But in the time, things have changed quite a bit.
For real, man?
Yes. At home, students use computers, tablets, iPhones, Nooks, iPads, Kindles, cell phones, gaming systems, handheld video games and all sorts of devices for communicating.
Does that mean no more letters or telegraph?
Today, all of these kids call it snail mail, Abraham. They just don't understand the art of letter writing. But that's another conversation. And the telegraph. Well, I'm not going to begin to explain that one to them.
So what you're saying, George, is that things have changed. And now there are important rules because things have changed.
That's correct, Abraham. Things have changed quite a bit. When they are at home, students and their parents need to come up with ways that the kids can stay safe online and when using cell phones and other types of technology. However, when using technology at school, that's when the acceptable use policy comes into play.
Now I understand. Because of all of these computers at Steger, students must use them safely. So the parents and students signed the acceptable use policy. It is a contract of computer rules that Webster kids must follow at school.
That's right. Here are a few things to remember. Students must never, ever share their login with any other student. Ever. That means they should not give out their lunch PIN number at all for any reason, except to check out a library book, to type it into the computer, or to use it to purchase lunch.
Sometimes kids think that once they are friends with someone, they will be friends forever. But what they need to know is that if they have given out a password to a best friend in 6th grade, by the time 8th grade rolls around, that student may not be a friend anymore. And that could be a disaster. I would hate to think what a bad student might do with login information belonging to someone else.
Also, students should never, ever change the settings on a computer without a teacher's permission. That means that you will receive a consequence if you change the icons, or the size of text on the desktop. You should not rearrange it or put any pictures of Elmo, Lady Gaga or Bart Simpson on your desktop. Just to name a few.
That is right. Students, if you do see that someone has changed something, let a teacher know immediately. Also, that means you should never, ever download anything on the computer. That includes accepting updates unless a teacher has said that it is okay.
Webster students are not allowed to use any inappropriate language online at school. If a student writes a book review, for example, and includes a bad word, there will be consequences. Students shouldn't use bad language at home either. But that's another matter. However, students should know that anyone they go to school with should never, ever be cyberbullied. If a Steger student bullies another Steger student online, there can be serious consequences for both the student and the parent. Bullying and online threats are dealt with at school, even if they were done at home on a student's own computer or cell phone. Because both students go to the same school, action can be taken by the police and school administrators. And that's no joke.
Correct. Also, when at school, Steger students also should never, ever go to websites that are not attached to another Webster teacher or Webster district site. In other words, students cannot go to a search engine such as Google and find FunBrain. They must get to the sites through another district website. That means that if they want to play games on FunBrain, they must first find a link on a Webster School District teacher's website and then go to FunBrain from there. In the library, Miss Olson allows kids who are using the library on their own free time to play games. If they want to, they can even go to games that were on their elementary teacher's websites.
In other words, if your 4th grade teacher at Edgar Road had a game on the school website, you can go to your old teacher's website. You may not, however, Google anything or go out on the internet alone without the permission of the teacher who is in the room. If you are in world studies and your teacher tells you to go to Google to find something, that is fine. But you are not allowed to go on the internet wherever you like. You must have permission first.
Also, students must be careful of the school district property. They should carry minis or laptops with 2 hands. Even if they are very angry at a computer, they should never throw a mouse or throw the computer through a window. Seriously, though, if computers are damaged in any way, your parents will have to pay for them. Do not do any damage to computers. It's not worth it.
Another important thing students must remember is that they must obey all copyright laws and give credit if they use pictures, words or videos belonging to someone else in a project. They also should reword information when possible. And one more thing, Abraham. At school, students should not be using or checking email or using or checking cell phones. If a phone or email needs to be used, it should be under the direction of a teacher only and only if there are special circumstances.
Just like when they're at home, they should never give out information such as their home addresses or phone numbers on the internet, correct?
That's right. Luckily, there is something called cyber-policing software on all of the Webster District computers. Many unsafe websites are automatically blocked by filters the school district has put in place. However, should students come upon something inappropriate, they should let a teacher know. And if a website or link asks for an address or phone number, they should never provide it.
Wow, that was an interesting talk, George. But aren't you supposed to be chopping down some cherry trees or something?
No, I once did that when I was a boy. Now that I have been brought back from the dead, I want to go check out the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum. It sounds really cool.
And I will check out the Lincoln Memorial behind us. I hear that the Washington Memorial is not doing too well these days. I guess my monument, not yours, was built for the ages.
I think perhaps too much honesty is not good, Abraham. Let's agree to disagree but to continue to be the best of friends. Yes, the best of friends. Let's dance now, shall we?
Yes. Let's dance.